And we are live. I'm sorry, everybody. I just had to run from my bedroom to here because, I still have internet issues. Oh, dear Lord. I miss my Italian internet right now. And we are once
Yeah,
again with my good friend, Larry Johnson. How you doing, Larry? Tell me.
good. So explain to me why is the internet such a problem in Brazil?
Well, I don't know. I would say
I-
that,
Is it? I mean, is it lack of infrastructure? They don't have enough. Is it all Wi-Fi or is it fiber optic optional?
no,
Or
no, we have fiber here. The speeds are lower than we have in Europe, which is not awesome, but it's pretty decent, I would say. We have, we have a problem here that you're facing in California recently. That is the robbery of, cables.
oh,
There's been a
really?
lot of,
They're
yeah, there's been
stealing copper wire. Then
stealing copper wire, and not only copper wire. Then you have also the fiber optics, because, well, for no reason at all except for, kind of mafia regions. So if this company is supposed to be in this region, then you take down the other company every now and then, so people migrate because, this service sucks and the other one works fine.
yeah. Well,
You have
Brazil's
a
got
pretty decent internet here.
yeah. I mean, if
So
Brazil wants to be part of the modern world, they need to get that squared away.
exactly, exactly. All of this stuff. It's also expensive. It's more expensive than the average internet in Europe. So people have they could have uh, better connections, but they go for the lower prices as well.
Yeah.
Especially where I am, the people here do not use internet as I need to be used. So actually, right now I had created on my laptop the everything, and I am on my cell phone using 4G, uh, because my cell phone is 4G. We have 5G here, and it's averagely very good. But and I'm using 4G for the camera and the talks. I make things work. I don't know why. I don't know how, but every now and then I make things work. Larry, we had an extremely interesting week,
Yeah.
as
You say
always, after Tuesday. So people decide, okay, Tuesday we have Larry Johnson with Marcelo. So from Wednesday on, we do interesting stuff. So he only can talk about in the next week. Larry, let's start with Orashi.
yeah, yeah. It I guess it hit an air base and factory that produces drones. It also was initially reported that it hit the natural gas storage facility. Now it's not clear, but what we do know that there are real problems with natural gas uh, distribution in at least Western Ukraine. So I think the Russians have taken a decision uh, that they're not afraid to kill NATO officers, NATO personnel that are in Ukraine. Um, I think the Russians have entered a new phase. Their patience of hoping to try to, maybe find a peaceful way out through negotiations. I think that's now dead. Um,
Well, well, killing NATO officers that are not there, right? So it's not actually killing NATO officers. It's just, well,
well, yeah,
this
well,
guy was in Ukraine for vacation.
well, earlier last week, um, yeah, because we're here on now Tuesday. So last week, uh, the Russians hit three different. They hit a grain storage facility in Odessa. Um, then they hit two other plants that were manufacturing facilities. All of these were owned by U.S. companies, U.S. personnel. So But Russia was sending, I think, a message as well to the United States that your folks are targets. You're going to be here. You're going to continue to fund this war, enable this war. Then you're going to be part of it. You'll be a target.
Yeah. So this is a no more gentleman arrange,
Yeah,
right?
with
So the war is here. Let's just keep us gentlemen.
there may have been an agreement before to do hands off of each other, but I
Mhm.
think that's dead. I think Russia now realizes the United States is not a viable, reliable negotiating partner. If they do believe that, they're insane. Okay, the United
Yeah.
States. I mean, if I was invited in to advise President Putin, I just say, look, even if you can get some sort of agreement with Donald Trump, the entire political system in the United States is poisoned against Russia. There is no attitude that says, "Hey, let's see how we can get along with Russia." No, it is it's complete um, an, animosity, and so there's it, it's only going to be out of some terrible event that the United States will ever be willing to change this attitude. I'm afraid.
Larry, this is an extremely important point for us to understand because average people has this idea that Donald Trump is the president, so he's the all-powerful guy, and we know that's not the case. The guy is more an image, a figure that is in front of the cameras, but the power struggle is behind him. How exactly do you think it happens behind the curtains? Who who master the puppets? Who draw
Well, there's
the policies and
I
yeah.
would say there's no power struggle. Are you kidding? There's no
Yeah, no,
fight.
no, no.
The, they all. I mean, they basically decided we're going to, the CIA tried to kill Vladimir Putin 2 weeks ago. Uh,
Yep.
they continue to provoke a war with Iran. They continue to enable the Zionists to murder Palestinians. The, they went in and violated the sovereignty of Venezuela just because we could, and yet in launching that operation that resulted in Maduro's kidnapping, the United States has not secured control over Venezuela at all. In fact, it's so bad that the State Department had to issue a travel advisory on Saturday saying, stay the hell out. It's too dangerous. But so Trump's not driving this truck. Um,
Hmm.
the agenda is being set. I'm not sure that you could put it on one person who's setting the agenda, but it's just the entire. Um, I think it boils down that once you get a set of governing assumptions, or let's say if I put rose-colored glasses on you, you're going to see the world as rose-colored.
Hmm.
So there is a series of beliefs and assumptions that have become sort of the standard of, Iran's a terrorist state, and you can't
Hmm.
view Iran as anything else other than a terrorist state. Russia is a authoritarian dictatorship. So once you start that's how you see the world. You don't, and you're
Hmm.
not willing to ask the questions. Does this really make sense? Um, if Iran is such a terrible terrorist international terrorist state, uh, what? Please give me the list of the attacks that they've carried out against the United States. Now you'll find some so well. Look at all the attacks by the Shia militias against U.S. soldiers in Iraq. Yeah, but that's not terrorism.
That's Iraq.
That's called fighting an invading force. We illegally invaded that country. And then when we start getting killed for our illegal actions, we want to blame the people that are fighting back. I mean, it's just such a load of crap. But what we're seeing right now in the United States is there are no alternative voices to speak up against any of these Syria, whether it's the attacking Iran, uh, bringing an end to the war in Ukraine, going after Maduro, taking Greece. Really, there's not alternative voices that are allowed to go out and say this is wrong, where the United States is breaking international law. In fact, you've got not only Trump, but his members of his administration and staff openly saying, basically, we wipe our ass with international law. Okay, it's nothing. It's power. It's who has the power. We're back to the age where might makes right. It's whoever's got the gun. Sort of Mao Zedong. It's out the barrel of a gun. That's where the power is.
Yeah, what I find most interesting is that not only the United States is breaking international law, which is, to be honest, international laws for me, has always been bullshit. Because, unless you have agreements, once you have conflicts, international law, oh yeah, I'm not going to attack this guy because it's written here, I cannot do that. Come on, it's kind of, but yeah, the United States, the rhetoric has always been that we defend international law or the rules-based international law. What amuses me even more is that not only the United States is breaking international law, but it's also internationally breaking its own law by, for example, arresting Maduro by having a machine gun. That really,
Oh, that's not even. How is
you
that
can
a
go to
violation?
Walmart.
That,
Yeah,
that's not. That's not. I don't understand how they can be a violation of U.S. law, because it's not prohibited. We don't have a law that says no foreigner can own a machine gun in their own country. you know what?
exactly. No, but you can own a machine gun in your own country as well, even if bring Maduro to the United States. Well, no problem.
Look, the issue is, um, with international law, you've got predictability. You've got
Hmm. Of course.
predictability and safety. The security of assets is sort of at the
Hmm.
heart of having a stable international financial system.
Yeah.
When you create doubts about the stability of that system, then you're
Hmm.
on the road to creating economic chaos. And that economic chaos spills over in political chaos, military chaos. Uh, and there was a reason they came up with these rules in the first place at the end of World War II, because the 70 million people were dead. The majority of those were in Russia and China. But there was an appetite to say, hey, look, we got to normalize this so that it's not just who's the biggest, strongest, or meanest that gets to make the rules. And but we're now witnessing, the death of this. Remember, this whole concept of the laws governing what a ruler could do. I think one of the earliest manifestations of trying to get control over that was the Magna Carta in England in 1215, because all the barons, the wealthy people, they still found that the king was a prick and was abusing power and taking money, and there was no agreement on who could tax what, and they all got together and said, no, you don't get to set the rules. We as a group get to set the rules. And so that was really where you saw an imposition of the limitations of power over a king, a sovereign. And that sort of worked its way through Europe. Uh, and it took about another 550 years from that point to get to what we had in the United States, was this concept of the every man, woman, and child are endowed by their creator with certain rights that cannot be taken away by another human being, that these rights belong to these people from God. And that was sort of a novel concept. It was really saying, hey, government doesn't get to tell you what to do. That government is there as to protect you, but it is not there to dominate you. That is, we're moving away from that rapidly. That the entire premise in the U.S. system, the Constitution, and the notion of the limitation of government power is now Trump, and it's not Trump's not the first one. I mean, other presidents prior to him have done this, but Trump right now is doing it in a much more blatant and frankly dangerous way.
Yeah, I have been having I have conversations with my good friend Hugo Dionisio from Multipolar TV, which is a Portuguese channel. Um, One of the conversations he was mentioning that uh, the empire, the collapse of the empire, the big inheritant empire of the British Empire, which is the United States Empire now, it's so imminent that Trump is the manifestation of urgency, and that's very dangerous. That's the point of dangerousness that we had, before World War I,
Yeah,
World War II,
yeah,
Napoleonic Wars, everything you can name it. And this urgency, it's what it's kind of spooks me, because what was just done in Venezuela, that's almost it seems strong, but also looks very much like an act of despair, an act of we need it now. Doesn't matter the consequences. Is it unconsequential act at this point? What do you think about that, Larry?
well, let me turn the question around to you. Why did we do it? I mean, do you have any? What was the purpose? Um,
And I was about to go that way because I read a fantastic piece you just wrote on Sonar 21 about this guy Paul Singer or Paul
yeah, yeah.
Singer. Can
I
you
mean,
tell me more about that?
yeah. Well, no. Paul Singer is 81-year-old billionaire, owns a gas station and refineries under the name Citgo, and he just
Hmm.
got He won a judgment in November, granting him, $12 billion that is, in theory, Venezuela is obligated to pay him. But Venezuela is going to say, "Screw you, we don't recognize that law." Um, he was initially an opponent of Donald Trump back in 2015, funding opposition research, but now he's given money to Trump, and Trump, it looks like, gifted him by taking Maduro out, maybe opening the way for Citgo to recoup some of its past losses. Now, here's the problem: uh, that if our goal was to quote change or get control of Venezuelan oil, we don't have control of Venezuelan oil. And we learned last Friday when Trump met with all the oil executives that they're not keen on going back into Venezuela at all. In fact, ExxonMobil said, "No, screw you." And Trump is mad at ExxonMobil now. No, we're going to punish them for not doing what I tell them to do.
Yeah,
I
right.
really, I'm completely fed up with Trump and his childish, narcissistic behavior. It's dangerous. But so we don't have control of the oil, and even let's say we got control of the oil, it's not that much oil. They produce 700,000 barrels a day.
Yeah.
That where does that fit in to the overall production of OPEC and non-OPEC oil countries? It is 0.6 tenths of a percent. A little more than 0.5%, just a little more. That doesn't move the needle at all. Plus, it's not a high grade oil. It's
Hmm.
this thick stuff that is very difficult to extract from the.
Almost hard.
Yeah, well, it's like peanut butter, you know, uh, just that kind of consistency. So it's not the oil. I mean, the amount of oil that's at stake here isn't going to change the oil market. It isn't going to lower prices in the United States, and it isn't going to hurt China. China doesn't need oil from Venezuela. It was buying oil from Venezuela. I've described it more like, you know, the guy that owns a cookie factory. He doesn't need to buy cookies. He owns a cookie factory, but he buys it from the Girl Scout every year when the Girl Scout cookie sale comes on to help the kid. Okay, that's what this was about. Um, we don't have control of the government. Yeah, we make threats, but the United States is not on the ground, and it is too dangerous for U.S. Permanent U.S. State personnel to be stationed there. The the virtual embassy is located in Colombia, next door. For the Venezuelan embassy, it's not in Caracas. So, and there's no sign that the military said, okay, yeah, Maduro was betrayed by some of his own officers, but there's no sign now that they're willing to completely subjugate themselves to the United States. So you got to step back and say, what the hell was this all about? I mean, getting getting Maduro into U.S. custody, where we're just pissed at him because he's thumbed his nose at us for all these years. Um, it's going to be interesting to see if the U.S. case against him even stands up in court. I think there's going to. I think this is going to
Some
be a
of
slam
the
dunk that many think.
Yeah, some of the accusations had already been dropped, like the involvements with drug cartels and stuff like that,
Yeah,
which was
the
based
Cartel
off
de los Soles, which was
that doesn't
uh,
exist.
apparently doesn't exist. Yeah.
You said that here long time ago already. Yeah, and just before we move to China, since you mentioned China, just before that, I would like to ask if there will be an MMA event for Maduro against Elon Musk. I would pay for seeing that. Remember Elon Musk
Yeah.
stretching his muscles? Come on, big guy! I'm going to slap you in the face. Is going to happen something like that or no?
Well, actually,
That's a good way to make money to
actually,
pay the 10Y.
the reality is Maduro is about the same age as Elon Musk's father. So I know
I
Elon's
bet he's going to he slaps his ass.
I know Elon's dad, Errol. Good guy.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about this. Seems to be a nice guy. Bad luck for the son. But moving to Asia, Larry, I'd like to ask about China's and Russia's response to that. They have been very rough responding to the kidnapping of Maduro. Well, not a kidnapping, abduction. Sorry. Uh, how do you see they responding to this, or there will not be any response?
Well, they condemned it. They spoke out strongly against
No.
it. Um, uh, but I think the nature of the response is not going to be some immediate action. I think what it has done is changed their attitude or their set of assumptions about working with the United States. Um, I would say prior to the attack on Maduro, there was still, I mean, there's a lot of there are friction points and irritation on the part of the Chinese against the United States. But I think there was still a lingering belief. Okay, well, we'll just have to, we have to negotiate through this. That the U.S. could be trusted with negotiations to make an agreement, live by the agreement. I think they've now recognized the United States is not to be trusted. There is no agreement possible with the United States. The only thing they're going to understand is force. And this was, I think, further reinforced to the Chinese yesterday when they announced that they're going to impose 25%, U.S. will impose 25% tariffs on China for any transactions with Iran, and China's not going to. They're not going to put up with that. The same for Russia. Uh, I think Russia has come to the decision the United States cannot be relied upon to provide any kind of solution to the war in Ukraine. That Russia is going to have to end it on its own.
Yeah, it's interesting point. How can the United States impose 25% tariffs on China trading with Iran?
They're going to do that. I mean, I don't know how they'll
But
collect. I grant you, I don't know how they'll collect the money, or they'll deduct it from any products that come into the United States from China. That they'll, add an additional 25% on all that.
okay,
And
funny.
the 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 days in which the United States was such a big market for China that China didn't have other alternatives. That's going away. China has
Hmm.
recognized we can't be dependent upon these guys. We're going to have to separate ourselves. We have to create some alternatives.
Yeah, basically the entire South America now it's has its balance
Yeah.
over China, except Colombia. But well, that's interesting point you made there because among the things that Trump said about Venezuela is that Venezuela, United States is going to buy its oil, and Venezuela will only buy American products.
No, but
So
again,
market by force.
it's not that much oil. That's what I mean. People
Yeah.
got to understand that we're not talking about a lot of oil. We're talking about 700,000 barrels. Okay. Um, Let me just double check. What is uh how many?
No, it's not about the oil, but the products, the market for buying American products. Forcing the market into Venezuela. Okay, so you have only to buy. It's very similar, actually. All this is very similar to what happened to Brazil in the early '80s.
Okay,
One of the federal police. Yeah, tell me.
okay, let me give you a number here. I just looked it up.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, the the United States consumes 20 million barrels of oil per day.
Okay, per day.
Okay. Here is Venezuela offering to provide 700,000 per day. Okay.
That's less than 120.
So the 10% of 20 million is 2 million. So basically,
Yeah, it's
the,
less
the,
than 5%.
that
Three,
that
three.
that maximum that Venezuela can provide is 5% of U.S. consumption. That's not a game changer at all.
No.
Plus, the refining of it requires more money. It's much more expensive.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That reminds me of the deals. Till today, when you import products and you're stopped, when you go to custom services in the airport, and sometimes the police stop you to check, or
Yeah.
even you can declare
Right.
what you bought. I don't know if you have that in the United States for importing. Uh, so even today, if you let's say you go to China, you buy a lot of you know Chinese stuff, and you go to Brazil and you declare that you spent more than what you can import, by allowance. The federal police of Brazil check the prices of the items that you bought on Miami stores
Uh-huh.
because you have to keep the competition low for the United States. That's very colonialistic in Brazil.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't believe the things that we have here that are so non-sovereign to the country. But since we're in Asia, a very important point, the point of the day, I guess, it's Iran. Let's go to the Middle East, Larry, or West Asia.
Yeah.
And we had discussed that before some months ago. The buildup of airplanes in, carrying stuff from Europe, United States, Europe, and then Middle East. and there's now this color revolution attempt that seems like it was completely frustrated,
Yeah.
but it became the excuse for another military build up against Iran. Larry,
Yeah.
how do you see this? What is the situation there? We have friends there. Uh, how do you see this developing now, and how is the situation nowadays there?
Yeah. It looks like the United States is going to launch an attack on Iran. This entire the, the narrative that was constructed over the course of the last 2 weeks, because this these protests started on the 28th. They started on a date that was predetermined, I believe, by the CIA and by Mossad. Um, and it was intended to create a narrative in the West that would justify an attack on Iran. This was not, it was sort of a lame attempt at color revolution. The CIA and Mossad used, and we know that Mossad was there because Mike Pompeo said, "Hey, they're there working alongside these protesters." Okay, thanks, Mike. Um, we know that the United States has had a relationship going back more than 20 years with the Mujahideen Khalq, MEK, who was a
Hmm.
long-standing group identified as a terrorist group by the United States, dating back. They started carrying out attacks in 1964. They were described sort of as a Marxist nationalist group, but uh, they first carried out attacks against the Shah, uh,
Hmm.
Reza Pahlavi's father, and then
Hmm.
they carried it out against the Islamic Republic. So they've been equal opportunity offenders. Um, The CIA started working with them in 2004, and I think it wasn't until 2012 that the MEK was actually taken off the list of terrorist organizations. But the CIA worked with them even when they were listed as a terrorist organization to carry out attacks inside Iran, which they did, including assassinations of scientists. So you've got that group. You've got elements of Kurds. Kurdish. There are Kurdish um, ethnic groups within Iran today, and some of those were incited to protest against the administration. You've also out in eastern Iran, the Baluchis, the different tribes out there. So uh, this was all ginned up to look like it was this massive protest movement, and and there was, let's be clear that there was anger at the government of Pezeshkian over economic mismanagement and high inflation. But um, there's always, with any propaganda, there's always a kernel of truth around which you cover it with lies. And they're creating the lie that this was some massive protest. Well, Nima is over there now, our mutual friend, and um, as well as Professor Morandi, who lives there. And I just posted a video at sonar21.com, or you'll be able to see it at my Counter Currents channel. It'll be up at Sonar 21 later today. I interviewed Morandi and Nima last Thursday, um,
Hmm.
and they were like saying, these hysterical reports that were coming out of the West about protests, massive protests, and the government anti-government uprising. I said it's just not true. Yeah, there are protests, and there were in certain areas there were some violent responses. What the CIA and Mossad forgot is the only way you're going to get a full regime change of a government is you got to have control of the military and or the police, the intelligence services. You got to have at least one of them so they can mount a credible threat. But they didn't have that, and then initially Pezeshkian was not eager to crack down on the protesters, but finally, I think the IRGC said, "Screw that, we're putting them down," and they did. And
Yeah.
uh, I just got a note from Nima a little bit ago. He's still able to send out information on Telegram. He says, while the internet is unstable, the situation on the ground is increasingly stable. Last night, there were no riots or protests, and the night before, the reduction was very noticeable. So we'll see tomorrow, there's going to be public executions of these people who were working with Mossad and the CIA. And, but Trump is vowing that he's going to fight, keep the protests going, and we're going to respond. There's been a significant buildup by U.S. Forces, or the U.S. has moved a lot of air defense systems into. It's got about 8 bases there in the Persian Gulf. The big one is Al Udeid, and then the naval facility in Bahrain. But they basically deployed a lot of Patriot missile batteries and maybe some THAADs. And I think they really believe that they can shoot down a bunch of Iranian missiles. Well, I got all this information off of OSINT, open source intelligence. Well, if I can read it, I think the Iranians can probably read it too. But in addition, they're getting intelligence from the Russians and the Chinese, including overhead imagery. They know exactly what's coming in there. They're probably getting signal intercepted information, so they know what's being communicated. So they'll have some idea about what's afoot. So if I'm Iran, I think they'll wait. They're not going to initiate contact. They'll wait until they are struck. Then when they're struck, they're going to initially launch. I think if I was them, I would launch 1,000, 2,000 drones at those bases, because that's going to force the U.S. to, when they shoot a Patriot missile, they don't get to reload it. There's a limited supply. Flood the zone. You flood it, and all of a sudden, at some point, you're going to exhaust the air defense systems of the U.S. Then you can hit them with the actual ballistic missiles that can't be defended against. And the same thing, they're going to hit Israel. So this, if Trump is, he's seriously entertaining, and there's lots of political support pushing him to attack Iran again. If they do so, I think it will end badly for the United States.
Yeah. It's interesting that people still don't understand very much how color revolution type of protests happen. If everything is all right, if everything is perfect and good, there's no chance such thing happens. People are happy, no problem. But if you have small problems in the government, inflation or lack of jobs, whatever, then people build up. And then I saw that Iran called the European ambassadors to watch the videos of violent provocateurs attacking the police and everything. So showing the images. So this is what's happening. The Europeans, of course, they know how it works, but here, this is happening here, and we are going to respond. And I really don't think the revolutionary force acted out of nowhere. They just, we got triggered. Let's respond.
Well,
that's also the fishing hook.
No, I was just going to say, not only that, but you had Elon Musk Starlink terminals that were being provided. In fact, the Iranians just today seized over 40,000 of them that were being smuggled into the country to create a communication system that could coordinate these different subversive groups. And, and Iran, I think with Chinese and Russian help, was able to identify it and take down that network. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. Perfect point. Actually, I didn't know about the Starlink because I knew that Iran has reduced the Starlink inside Iran, but the smuggling point is very interesting. People don't understand and underestimate Starlink. So basically, as you know, someone that worked with not exactly with network, but with distributed computing, uh, Starlink, it's a point where you have no sovereignty over your data, of the data inside your country, because once you put data there, it goes to the skies and to the United States. So you don't have control over routers or internet switches or any infrastructure of internet.
Yeah, yeah,
The data straight away from the country and also directly in without you having any knowledge of what's going on there.
yeah.
Well,
Taking down a
at least
satellite network is tough, but it can be done.
it can be done. Yeah, exactly. It can be done, but it's also very tough. And since the terminals are small, you can smuggle them in. Excellent point, Larry. Perfect
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
Perfect point. My friend, I think we run through the options of the day. The week was very interesting, but well, except for Europe, but who cares about Europe anymore?
Let's. I'd settle for boring, but we'll. I'm afraid we're not going to get that.
Exactly, Larry. I'd like to remind everybody to like, share, subscribe the videos, and follow Larry on Sona21.com. Go there and you're going to find all the interviews that he's on during the week and also the great interviews that he puts up on the Countercurrents channel. And also follow Countercurrents, which is getting pretty awesome. The channel is getting professionalized.
Yeah, it's up to now. What are we looking at? We're up to almost
Almost 100.
64,000 subscribers. So that's a move in the right direction.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
people like and share and subscribe to Countercurrents channel as well. And remember to put the bell on so you get the notifications. Larry, my good friend, thank you very much for this amazing conversation once again.
All right,
And
Marcelo.
see you
Hey,
next.
stay cool.
Under 40 degrees sun? No,
Yeah.
impossible.
All right.
Take good care, my friend. See
All right,
you.
buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.